everybody. My name is Katia Woods. This is Cup of Social, and today I get to speak with the wonderful people behind a documentary that I saw at South by Southwest called Soy Cubana. And you know, guys, we are huge fans of documentaries. We love documentaries. And I was just saying that it was nice to see this film. You know, we love our festivals, but it's always so heavy. So heavy. Like it's like we need, you know what I mean? We're like, oh, summer movies are coming to alleviate the heaviness. So everyone around, go and introduce yourselves, tell the audience what your role is with the film, and then we'll get into how you got to meet these fabulous ladies and, you know, and going to Cuba and everything. Like, we'll get into the fun stuff.
Great.
We'll start with ladies first. Robin, you go first.
Robin.
Ladies first.
I'm Robin MillerUngar, and I'm the producer of the documentary Soy Cubana. And I guess I was the person that first saw the Vocalitas. So I'll let everybody else introduce themselves, and then we can talk.
I'm Jeremy Ungar, and I am the co-director of Soy Cubana.
And I'm Ivaylo Getov, and I'm the other co-director of Soy Cubana.
Okay, so we have
also cinematographer.
And cinematographer, I suppose.
Hey, listen, absolutely, right? So you guys were living your lives, and who said, hey, let's go make a documentary about these wonderful ladies? How did that come about?
Well, I guess that was me. I went to Cuba in 2014, went to Santiago de Cuba, where a lot of tourists don't often get because it's so far from Havana. Most people go to Havana and that region, and this is 16 hours by bus to Santiago de Cuba, which is the second largest city in Cuba and really the hub of Afro-Cuban art and music and culture. And in wandering through this amazing fortress, I came upon the Vocalitas, who were singing in the stone chapel. And it was that moment of the goosebumps, feeling the emotion that you feel when you hear amazing music and thinking, oh my God, the world needs to hear these women because this is really something special. So I returned home, and Jeremy, you can take it from here because I called Jeremy right away.
Yeah, so Robin is my mom, and she's always had the dream of making a documentary film. And at the time, I was working as a narrative filmmaker, pretty much exclusively. But she showed me this iPhone video she had of these 4 women singing, and I thought it was so like incredible and captivating. And Ivaylo and I had worked together, you know, for many years, and I knew he had experience with documentary. I knew he was a brilliant cinematographer, and so I called him, and we started talking to each other. And we thought, like, well, maybe we could go back and do something just, you know, very bare bones. And that was kind of how we dove into working on the short.
So mom gets some credit, right? So we thank mom for the awards, right? Talk about the process, you got about going, because it's not, you know, going to Cuba is not like, hey guys, we're coming, we're gonna film a documentary, and they're like, come on in. Like, it's really, it's not as easy as people like to think to get a visa for cultural exchange. I think most people go for cultural exchange.
Yes,
but it's still very, you know, egregious.
Well, like, you know, we, like Jeremy and Robin said, right? Like at a certain point, you see this music, you know, the video of these singers, and we're like, you know, this is worth it. Let's go, whatever the case may be, right? And you know, part of what I think makes this movie work in the way that it does is we started shooting the short 6 years ago, and we began this whole process in this really brief sliver of time where right after Obama had begun relaxing the process and sort of the difficulty of getting to Cuba and allowing some of that porousness in the border. And then, you know, obviously, as we were working on the film, that window sort of began to close, and ultimately, you know, what became more difficult, and that's kind of what we portray in the movie. But we were able to, you know, like you said, we had to go through these special visas, and there's, you know, these direct, these kind of procedures you have to go through. But ultimately, we actually were able to fly from Los Angeles to Havana directly, which, you know, would not have been the case a year prior, and would not have been the case, you know, a year afterwards. So that was really exciting just to be there at that time. And that being said, communication to Cuba is incredibly difficult, you know, phone access, internet access. And so having worked on a few documentaries, I'd say like this was the least amount of prep information and sort of like contingency that I have ever had kind of going into any movie, just because it wasn't possible. And a lot of it was just built on, let's trust that we're going to get something. Let's trust that they'll be receptive. And ultimately they were, and they turned out to be amazing personalities and very amazing subjects as well. But we just kind of went on the music and faith that we'd get, at the very least, a recording of an album of something.
Absolutely. I also like how you focused on them as people. Do you know what I mean? Like you didn't, because it's, I mean, not saying you, but a lot of people go in with an agenda to show, like, I'm going to show you that it's really bad and everything is horrible and doom, doom, doom. But I loved how you allowed them to tell their story, how they came together through their perspective. In other words, you just turned on the camera and they became the narrators of their own stories. Was that automatic, or did it take some time to develop that trust?
You know, it's interesting that the first night that we went, this was, you know, probably in 2015, you know, 6 years ago, before we started filming with them, we just had a meal. And I'm as you're talking about this, I'm flashing to that night, because I think the three of us all looked at each other. Like our first night in Cuba, we were exhausted from a day of travel, and we had this meal with these four women, and we were like, we hit the jackpot in terms of characters in our documentary, because there's, in addition to their music being incredible, their personalities are so infectious, and they're all so unique, and such a kind of like interesting blend of people, that at that point we really knew, like, oh, there's a really cool character study here.
I'd sort of, you know, for that dinner, I'd made a point before we got there, you know, guys, let's just meet them. Let's not bring cameras. Let's just see who we're dealing with. Let's not overwhelm them. And like 20 minutes into the dinner, I was like, oh, we really should have brought cameras. That was a mistake, right? You know, like they're just such compelling characters that we knew that we wouldn't have to impose any kind of like narrative or questioning or sort of like heavy hand on them. We would just point the cameras, and then we'd be able to build something off of what they were giving us, because they were really generous in that way.
Absolutely. And I think it also probably helped Robin that you're a mom. You're his mom. So their mom, a lot of them are moms and their wives, and so you have that commonality. So you were able probably to broker some things as woman to woman, you know what I mean? We're like, okay, she's not going to bring her kid here to do craziness, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Did you feel like that kind of like helped the conversation, the project move along a little bit?
No, I think it did, because for the Cubans, family is so important, and this togetherness is so important to them. And I think they found it probably interesting and endearing that, you know, we were a family. And also, you know, they're very, very strong women. And I think the bond that has connected us over these years, it's now 6 years, and it's, you know, you always feel you have to have that professional distance as documentarians and with your subjects. But after 6 years, and, you know, what we've all gone through together, we've become really close. And I think we just all, you know, have this respect for each other as women with a purpose, and it's been very uniting and very exciting.
I mean, I think that Robin brings up a really good point too, that kind of goes back to one of your other questions, right? I think that we came in to focus on them as professionals, not as Cubans. And I think that went a long way to sort of garner trust in terms of what our intent was, right? Like we weren't going in being like, tell us about all these cool cars, tell us about these cigars. Like that's the kind of crap that, you know, I think we were really trying to avoid, because it plays into a lot of kind of misconceptions. We went in being like, hey, tell us about your craft, tell us about your amazing singing, and not just that they are amazing, but like they put work into it. We followed them to rehearsal, we followed them to, you know, planning out what their gigs would be, and just being there to focus on that stuff. I think they really saw that we meant business, you know, and so they opened up to us, I think, quicker because of that.
Also, the other thing that I found really fascinating is how they navigate it. You know, like you could tell in the film that internet access was real shoddy. You know what I mean? They probably don't have access to WhatsApp like we do. So them being able to not only book the main reason why they went, but additional gigs shows their perseverance and their hustle, and also being 4 women traveling, to the United States, a country that's so different. And also, again, I was saying what the perception has been to Cuba, but still that being like, okay, we're gonna come here. We booked this major gig, but we're gonna do these other things. And we're gonna get our money and then go back home. How did they learn how to navigate that space? Was this just something from their previous travels, or was it just like, listen, if we're gonna go, we're gonna make the most of this. Like we're not just going for this one thing.
Well, they had toured a fair bit of other countries before coming to the U.S. They had been to Germany, they had been to Ecuador, and then I think when the opportunity came up, they'd always felt like the U.S. was a place that would really like get their sound because they do sing a chunk of North American music, and they felt like North American audiences and especially American audiences since they started coming to Cuba really understood their sound, and so I think they really came to this with this like let's suck the marrow out of the trip attitude. But at the same time, they were really smart in that they used the earlier gigs as kind of like a way to test out what songs would work on audiences. And that was the way that they planned that, the Grand Performances show, which was the one for 3,000 people, was their last show. And so they kind of built up this experience to know like, okay, they played for, I think, 20 minutes at Grand Performances, and they knew like, all right, these are our 5 strongest songs, and this is what we'll do.
Absolutely. I mean, they do their own instrumentation, arrangement, and everything. I also love that you captured some of their families, because I'm thinking like that's got to be hard, to let go of your loved one to go pursue their dream, and you don't really, you know what I mean, you can't like connect on that level, you worry and you hope everything's okay and everything like that. I like that you were able to incorporate their families, their family gathering. How was that getting the rest of the family? Because the film is about the women, and sometimes people are like, well, listen, I didn't sign up to be in anybody's film, like, but how was it like, getting the rest of the family to talk, to open up a little bit about the ladies?
Again, I think that comes from trust building, that comes from being involved for 6 years. And also, the women kind of told their families to, talk to us, right? Like they said, yeah, go for it. But it also, on our end, we were looking for things that would also connect an audience to these women and sort of show the things that we all have in common and sort of bridging that same, like mire of misconceptions that we all might have about life in other countries. And so we knew that we had to do that, show the families, because everybody can relate to that. Everybody can relate to, parents working, dealing with childcare, stuff like that. And so we asked really early on, hey, we really want to interview your husbands, your kids, and they did not, to their credit, they did not resist at all.
Absolutely.
I was going to say too. Oh, sorry. I was going to say too, as far as filming the families, we had, I guess, what you would call the luxury of time, because we shot them here. We had shot them in Cuba in 2015. In 2017, I went because they were having their album was coming out, and they had a big release of that album in Santiago, and I had the privilege of going. And again, over all of these trips, and then going back again in 2019, because we wanted more of the family. We knew we needed more of that for the film, for the feature. And I think having those experiences kind of over the years, we became closer and closer. And I think the trust, by the time we went in 2019 to really get what we needed with the families, we knew the families really well. We had seen, Anya's daughter go from whatever she was, 13, and then she's 15, then she's 16. It's just that evolution of time really helped us, I think, in terms of what we got in the end for the feature film.
It was also a logistical challenge and a bit of a pain to navigate that as well, because we obviously can't be in 2 places at once, and we wanted to show the families trying to watch the concert, which proves to be one of the most interesting kind of stressful parts of the movie, because they're having a hard time connecting. But obviously we're not there, and so we were working with Cuban camera people on the ground there, and directing kind of remotely, giving feedback based on dailies. and sort of working with disparate styles. We had multiple different people just based on availability on the Cuban side. So that was just really pushing for getting the family side was also a challenge on a filmmaking level as well.
Amazing, amazing. Did they get to see any of the concerts? Because my heart was like breaking, and I was like, oh my goodness. I was like, just work internet, and they're in the cafe, they're in the plaza, and I was like, oh, and the thing, and you're showing it in Los Angeles, and I was like, oh, it's going so well. Please say that did they get to see a little bit of it?
Well,
Not
actually, yesterday though, they got to see the movie for the first time. We managed to upload a clip for them, and it's tricky because they can't get Vimeo in Cuba, so we did like this private YouTube link, and they saw the film for the first time, and called Robin immediately after watching it.
Oh, nice, nice. Because that was like the thing, I'm sitting there and I'm going like, please connect, like you're willing to connect. Did you share with them the reaction? Have you been able to share with them a little bit the reaction from American audiences, and how did they feel about that?
Yes, they are over the moon. They are so happy. Their comments about the film are so positive. And again, you think of subjects for documentary, and some people would come back and say, I don't like this, or this isn't. And we were concerned too, because this is, it's Cuba, and we, you have to portray things in what is going to be deemed appropriate for them. They have to live there. And
absolutely.
They were so happy. They are so happy with the film, and they're today going around town, COVID has reemerged, unfortunately, there, and they are on lockdown. So they are trying to figure out ways of making sure people who were involved in the film can see it safely. And the same thing goes for Havana. It's a very weird time for them, but they are ecstatic. Yeah.
And when you talk about the family interaction, it's so interesting because Marjorie, the woman who's the base of the group, yesterday, Anya, the contralto, was actually in Havana visiting an ailing relative. So her daughter was alone, and Marjorie actually went over to show Anya's daughter the film after she had watched it herself.
Oh, nice, nice. What is it? So you were saying, do you feel, are they going to be able to capitalize a little bit? Because at the end of the day, they do say, you have COVID, so that has slowed down tourism or halted it, because nobody wants anybody bringing in more craziness. Will they be able to capitalize off of the success of the film, as because I'm sure people are like, where can I buy their music, and do they have merch, all that good stuff, anything like that?
Well, they are on Spotify.
Yeah.
Cool.
Well, yeah, like the Robin has some, they've reached out to Rob. People have reached out to Robin directly, even just after the Grand Performances show, before the movie came out, and even after we had the short, curious about the Vidas, and through just the film, even before the film has come out, we've had definite inquiries for them. But also, it's like part of just being featured at South by Southwest, like we were really excited because it's also a music festival, and so they've gotten a lot of exposure, just not because of and the exciting thing is it's not just because of the film, it's they've gotten exposure as a featured artist, in connection to this film, and that's been really great, as a way to get them a bigger audience.
Absolutely, absolutely. And what about you guys? Talk about what is your takeaway, because we all go through into a project, especially as creative people, and we walk away with something that we don't often think that we're going to get out of the project. So what is the one thing that you learned or you feel like has enhanced your life making this film?
I'll go first. And I just want to say, for me, it was, we didn't know that they were going to arrive in LA until about 12 hours before they got the visa. They didn't know. It was the day before, and at 5 p.m. in Havana, the visa came through. And for me, it was that moment of, oh my God, we are going to be making this feature film, and allowing day by day, I call it serendipity, but day by day, things would just crop up that were so good, unexpected, and being able to just sort of kick back and allow these things to occur, be receptive to them, and let those things take us on the journey. And that's one thing that when Anita watched the film yesterday, she said it really showed, she said it showed the spontaneity of what occurred when we were in Los Angeles and that connectivity that occurred, the love and the friendships that they didn't know what to expect. And I think that's really what I got from the experience big time.
Amazing. What about you guys? Jeremy?
Um, well, I think very connected to that. When we were initially trying to find the shape of this movie, our editor, whose name is Augustine, is really, really brilliant and was looking at all of, we had so many hours of footage, and all of the things that I think he found and that we kind of settled on together that were kind of like core moments in the movie, were really about people and really about moments of maybe unexpected connection between the vocal Vidas and these people who maybe they encountered, either professionally or just for some chance reason, and kind of discovered that we have so much more in common than we do, different, no matter how different our life experiences or upbringings or where we're from are. There was such like beautiful connection that we found, and that's something that I hope to bring to the rest of my life, no matter what.
Ivaylo, what about you? What was the thing that you were like, this is going to stay with me?
I would definitely second everything that Robin and Jeremy said, but I think on a even personal professional note, I think coming out of film school, when you're first out, years ago, your impulse is like, I want to make the movie that's going to, launch me. I want to make the movie that's going to like make it, and that's so tiring. And then this opportunity came along. I had just shot 2 back-to-back feature documentaries as a DP, and I was really tired of just that grind. And I approached this movie with such a lightness and such like a enjoyment of just rolling with it and seeing what happens. And that like feeling of lightness, I think, the ability to let go of the need to make the movie for any reason except to make the movie because it's worth making, turns out that then led to a really successful movie. And I think that sort of was over the last half decade, that's been a really powerful shift, I think, in my thinking around like how to approach this craft.
Absolutely enjoy the process. So Robin, you as a producer, tell everybody where they can find information about the film, because South by has come and gone, but we want people to see this film. We want this film to be in front of a bigger audience. So tell them how they can get the word out and what are the plans.
We are just beginning the journey. As you know, for independent documentaries, it is a journey. So we will be going to festivals in the next few months, and all of that should be announced on our website, which is soycubanamovie.com. And also, guys, on Facebook, we'll have that information.
Yeah, and Instagram. All of our social media, Twitter, Facebook, Instagram, is just at Soy Cubana Movie.
Perfect. So everybody, Soy Cubana Movie, subscribe, follow, and then when it comes to your town or your home, as we keep our fingers crossed as we work through this new normal, make sure you guys go and support and listen to the music on Spotify, because these women sing like angels. We need some healing music these days. I want to thank everybody for taking the time to speak to me. Like I said, I was sitting here and I was like nodding my head and, being like, oh, this is so fun. And I really felt like, oh, and I wanted to know more. So thank you so much for sharing the time with me and letting me know a little bit about the process and getting to know these amazing women.
Thank you for having us.
Oh, for sure, for sure.
Absolutely.
Such a pleasure.
Thanks for the kind words about the film. We're really glad you liked it.
It's an absolute joy. You know what I mean? Like I said, as I felt like, it was like, no, what do you mean? One left? What, this is meaning no music? Like, what's happening? You know what I mean? So I really was like, I was like, please keep singing. I do think it's the type of film that is going to resonate. It's also like there's a part of me that was like, I would have loved to sit in an audience, see it, and then, you know, fingers crossed the ladies could have been there and they could have like done a little concert and that would have really capped it off. But I also think that this is going to, again, resonate because we have such a huge Latin population here. We have a huge Cuban population, and it's going to make a lot of people feel really, really good. Much success to the film. And again, thank you. Sorry about the mishap on Friday. The internet was like, I am not on your side. And I was like, seriously.
Okay.
No worries.
Now, so I appreciate you guys rescheduling it. Nema, anything else that you want to add, please send it to me and we'll have that up on the site. And I'll be happy to, if anything comes out like additional festival, so we can put that out there so people can, you know, see the film. You know, good luck in the process. Hopefully, we'll see you on a streaming service or a screen coming in the fall.
Yes.
That'd be great. And hopefully the Vocal Vidas will be back to the U.S.
Yeah.
Can't wait.
Yeah, you know, I mean, listen, we got through last year. We can hang on a little bit more, and you know, hopefully, as we're all getting vaccinated, God willing, we'll have live music again because we need it.
Oh my God, yeah, like that's. I'm really desperate for some live music again after finishing this movie. Like...
Thank you guys. Thank you, Nema.
All right.
Bye.
Thank you. Bye.
Thank you so much.